Hi guys, welcome to another Divi Theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignertechtips.com. We got a fun one for you today. We've got a interactive little landing page or sales page here. As you can see, I've got a little icon flashing away there. If you scroll down the page, you can have this little character pop up. If you keep scrolling, we've got a bit of text pop up with a button. And if you keep scrolling again, we've got some little products there that I've added to the bottom. But we've made it a little more interactive by connecting everything. If you click on that little icon or the title here, it'll take you straight down to this out of this world deals here with a little character there. If we click this button, it'll take us straight down to our products. Really nice little feature to have on your site. Of course, it'll work just as well on tablet and mobile. If we take a look on tablet, here it is on iPad Air. If I click on that one, takes us down to here. If I click on this one, it's going to bring up our little products right there. And same thing for a phone, obviously. There's an iPhone. Let's pop back to the top of the site. I'll just scroll down manually. There's our little character fella. Here's our little deals. And there are little crazy spaceship deals there. All these images I've generated there at Night Cafe. If you're interested in that, have a look down below. We've got a link down there. Okay. And you may have noticed I've got no menu or anything up here, so I'm using a blank page template for this today. So let's get started. Really easy to do. I'm going to start a new page. We'll give it a title. Now, if you don't want it to have a menu and everything like mine, you want to give it a blank template. That way it'll just be what we're designing here with no header or footer. To do that, go over to your right-hand side. If we look down here, we've got default template. If you left-click on that, we've got a little drop-down option here that says default. If you hit the little chevron to the right, the arrow there, we can choose blank page. That'll make sure that we've got no header, footer or sidebar on there. Now let's use the Divi Builder. I'm going to go ahead and build from scratch. By default, Divi throws in a section. It'll ask you to put in a row. I'm going to put in a single column in my first row here. Now I'm going to use a heading or a title. And I think I said astronomical sale. Obviously put in whatever you want there. We'll come back and we'll do links in a little while. Let's just style up our text a little bit here. Over in the design tab, you can either go to manually and get the heading text right here, or just hit the little paintbrush connected to it, and it'll take you straight to the editing for the main text there. I'm going to change my font. Divi's got a huge amount of fonts. To Audition one, just roll over. It'll give you an example like that. I used one called Aclonica before, or whatever that said. So I'm going to use that one again. That's great. I'm going to make it bold. Yeah, let's make it a little bit bigger. Well, let's actually make it twice the size. That's great. Well, I want it aligned in the middle. Okay, we're going to add a little icon below that as well. So let's just save what we got here, and we'll come back and decorate these things in a minute once we've got our background image in. For this, I just use an icon module straight under my title here. I want a down arrow. I think I just used a simple double chevron there before. I'm going to put a little background in there. I think I used black. And I clicked on it. Clicked on the dark field there. This variegated slider's opacity, the more you pull this down, the more of the background you'll see in between. I think I had a sort of opaque background like that, and I made mine round over in design by going design tab to border to make it round. Give it 50% up there. Just make sure that's checked. It is by default. If it is, you do all four sides at once, and just type in 50 and the percent sign, and you'll have a little round one. Okay, well that's good. Let's make our little section the way we want it, and then we'll decorate this the way that we want them decorated. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to go into my section, blue tab for a section, green tab for a row, dark tab for a module. So in the section, the blue tab, I'm going to go down to background and put in that image that I wanted to use. Third tab across its images. I'm going to left click, and there's the image we used before. That's great. We've got no scrolling room, but when we do, I don't want this to move up and down at all. So I want to use their parallax option just down below, use parallax effect. I'm going to use what they call CSS parallax, which is fixed background. So no matter how we scroll, that background is going to stay exactly where it is. Fantastic. Now, while we're in this section, I want it to be a minimum of 100% of the screen height on all devices. So we can do that over in the design tab again. If we go down to sizing, I'm going to use minimum height. That way, if there's more text or images on the screen that makes it bigger, you'll be able to scroll. So I'm going to say 100 VH for viewable height. And as you can see, that's made that the whole of the screen height there. And as you can see, when I'm scrolling there, that background image is not moving at all, which is just exactly what I want. Great. Let's save that now and put these things where we want them and color them the way we want them. So let's go back into our little heading right there. Again, I'm just going to hit the little paintbrush icon for the heading. I want to make mine light in color. In fact, I'm going to make it white. That's great. But I want it to stand out a bit. So I'm going to give it a box shadow, but I'm going to give it a colored, or I should say text shadow rather than box shadow. So I'm going to use this one right here. I'm going to roll down a little bit. I'm going to use the default purple, which just gives it a little purple glow around the back there, which kind of works for me. Obviously, adjust yours to taste. And I'm also going to go into that icon below. I think I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. We'll change the color to match the color that we've got going on here, perhaps. So design, here's our icon. I just used that default purple before. I think that'll work. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Make it, say, 50 pixels. Obviously, again, adjust to your taste. Maybe a little bit bigger than that. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a glow in the background too, just to make it stand out against that image in the background. So again, I'm going to go down to box shadow. I'm going to select this one this time. I'm going to use that same purple color for the shadow. And it's got that little glow in the background there. That works for me. Okay. Now, one thing we want to bear in mind is that text is pretty big, so we might want to adjust it on tablet and mobile. So let's quickly take a look. We'll go into that module again, dark tab for the module. We can go design and heading text, or hit that little paintbrush again. Here's our heading text size. Common to all Divi modules. If you roll over the dark text within a module, you'll see these little icons. If there's a little mobile phone icon, heading text size, there is. We can click on it. It'll give us 2 more tabs. If we click on the tablet, we can see how big it is on the tablet. Yeah, we could take it down a little bit on tablet. Something like that. And again, on mobile, I think that's going to kind of work. You could take it down a little bit more. However you want to do it, that fits nicely. And I just put in the 30, it puts in the pics for us. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go back to desktop. Now we want to push this down to about the middle of the screen. So we can do that while we're in our heading, or we can do it on the row, whichever works. While we're in the heading, may as well do it here. We're in the design tab. Close that up. Look at spacing at the top. I want it to be somewhere down here. Let's try 40 viewable height, and we'll take a look at it again on tablet and mobile. So in the padding in the top, I'm going to write 40 VH for viewable height. A little bit too much for me. Take that down to maybe 30. I think that's okay. Depending on whether you want your icon centered or your text centered, you can even take it down a little bit more. So the icon's sort of more centered that way. Let's compromise. Let's put it in the middle, but obviously you make yours how you wish. 25. Okay, I'm going to leave that just like that. Now let's check it on tablet and mobile. We may want to adjust those. Again, hit the little phone icon. Tablet, that's fine. Perfect. Mobile, that's going to work too. Haven't got a problem with that at all. Like I say, you can adjust it if you need to. Great. Well, that's our first little section done. Now I want this same image to stay exactly where it is as they scroll to the next section. easiest way to do that is just clone this section. If I just clone this section, we've got this background set to CSS Parallax, which is fixed background. There, if I scroll down, you'll see the picture stays exactly where it is, and we still got that section down below. Or I should say this row down below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete our little modules here because I don't need them anymore. Here I want to have that little character and a little call to action pop in. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete the little icon here. We're going to add a little image module for our little character to fade in here. And I just had this guy riding a little space rocket. Again, that's a little Night Cafe generated image. That's fine. I'm going to leave him right there. Now, with the images, when you hover over this crazy number here, because it's an AI generated image, it's generated that number. You can change that to something pertinent, or if you want to hide it while we're in our image here, let's go to the advanced attributes. There's that crazy number it's generated. You can just delete that. Then when they put their mouse on it, nothing's going to happen. That's our little second section, really. We're going to roll down from there to here. Then I'm going to have that guy stay there. I'm going to use a bit of fixed positioning in a moment. And then we'll roll down to the next section. And we'll have a call to action right up over the top of this. So again, I'm going to clone this section. And if I roll down, you'll see that chap again. Here's our next section. I can get rid of this fella now. And here I want to add a call to action module. Obviously, you can add as many different sections as you want. I'm keeping this fairly simple. You can make a really good little funnel page or squeeze page with this method too. And let's see. And for the button, I know you can't see it yet, but I'll put a link in and you'll see it. Yeah, so get deal. I've got no real content to put in there. I'll just leave that exactly like it is. Obviously, you'd want to put your content in there. For the link, if I just put a link in the button link there, you see that button turn up. And you can style the button individually here in design, and the button, use custom styles. I'm happy for it to be on the default there. What I do want to change is that background though, because I'm going to have this bit come up over here. So I want a bit of a dark bit just to make that writing stand out, and perhaps a transparent bit around the outside. I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But while we're in here, I want to use that same font that we used in our title up here. So again, we can just roll over, get the paintbrush that's connected to it. It'll take us straight there. I've used that font before, so it's in my recently used up here, and there it is. I'm going to make it bold. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And again, if you need to, you can adjust it on tablet and mobile. Fine. I might want to spell that correctly too. Out of this world deals celery on there. So let's just get back to the content and text. Get rid of that R. Happens when I talk and do things. But while we're over in the content, I want to change out that background. So background's always under content, as I'm sure you know. If we go into the background, there's that blue color on the first tab. Let's get rid of that. Just hit the little trash can. I'm going to add a gradient behind this one. So I'm going to hit the plus to add a gradient. It puts a two-stop gradient in by default. I want mine to be elliptical so we can highlight the text more than anything else in there, so that when we roll up over this thing, it's going to work okay. So let's just roll down a little bit. The gradient type, I'm going to switch it from linear to elliptical. And we've got an elliptical blue in the middle, so that's the bit I want to keep. And the green bit is the bit I want to turn transparent. So if we go back up to our stops here, just left click on the stop. That green stop, I want to be totally transparent. So I'm going to change that by pulling the opacity slider down. So the outside one is now totally transparent. Inside one is blue. I'm going to change this inside one to a black. And again, I'm going to change the opacity in a moment. I'll leave it as it is, but I want to take this down just a little bit. it's going to become darker towards the edges. So if I leave it where it was and bring our transparent one in, you can see those edges feathering out, but we've still got that nice dark bit in the middle that's highlighting that text. So if it goes over the top of something, it's going to be nicely highlighted. Still got a bit of a line there. Let's just take that down a little bit more. Great. That's going to work perfectly for me. Now you can stop here if you want to, and then with this link take them to your sales page or your WooCommerce product page or wherever it is you like to do. What I did is I simply added some to the bottom of mine and made a link from this to this. So I'll quickly do that. In fact, if I go back to this page and enable my Visual Builder, and we roll on down to the bottom here, I'll just save this row, and I've just made these out of some images. I've got a blurb module at the top here with a bit of text and a call to action button underneath for test flying or buying or whatever you want to do. I'm going to save this to my library. I go into the little round icon by the trash can there. And I'll just call it items. I'm going to save it to my library. Now if we go back to the page we were working on here, make sure everything's saved. I'll just quickly refresh this page. And if we roll down to the bottom here, I'm going to clone this section one more time. Blue tab again. 2 little squares to clone or duplicate. Here we are. I'm going to get rid of this row that's in there. Green tab for the row. Remember, it's going to prompt us to add a new row. I'm going to add a new row. But I'm going to add the one from the library. And that's why we had to refresh, because our new row wouldn't show up in the library if we didn't refresh. There it is, items. Let's use this row. There they are. So we've got 4 sections now, one with our items, one with a little call to action, one with a little character, and one with our sale now. So I want this little icon to link to not this section, but this section with the call to action. So I'm going to call this sales, this section. So the link to it, I can go into my icon, the link down below. I put a hashtag in there because we're linking to what they call a CSS ID, and you'll see what I mean in just a minute. I'm going to give it a CSS ID of sales. Great. Let's just copy that sales. Control C to copy. Now this section, if I just give that a CSS ID, you'll always find CSS IDs and class names over in the advanced. There it is, CSS IDs and classes. We use sales. Make sure you put it in ID and not class, because it identifies the section with that name now. Control V to paste. There it is. When we link to it from a button or a link, we need to put hashtag sales, and it'll take us straight down to here. Great. Now this button that's in here, I want it to link to this section here. So let's call this, or we'll call it items perhaps. So again, I'm going to go into the section. I'm going to call it CSS ID of items. Let's copy that. Control C to copy again. And we'll put the link into this button so it takes us down to there. So we need to go into the call to action. Roll on down, we're under the content tab. There's the link. Here's the button link. Hashtag, it's already got one in there when I put the placeholder in. And the CSS ID name. This will now scroll down to this. Fantastic. Well, we're getting there. But I'm just going to complex it up just a little bit. By what I want to happen is I want to have this icon when they click on it. Like I say, you can make the title and the whole row a link as well if you want to. I want it to roll down. But I want this guy to sort of fade in. And then I want the call to action to slide in on top of this guy. So we've got to use a little bit of positioning and scroll effects for this today. So I'm going to do that in the row that this image is in. Green tab for the row, remember. I'm going to click on the little cog. I'm going to go to the advanced. I'm going to enable scroll effects down the bottom. Now I want this chat to fade in halfway up the screen and stay there. So if we look at our scroll transform effects here, We've got vertical motion, don't need that. Horizontal motion, no. Fading in and out, I'm going to use that today. We can use scaling, making it bigger or smaller, rotating, and blurring. But I'm going to use fading in and out. So I'm going to click on the fading in and out. I'm going to hit the enable fading in and out switch. If we look now, when he's down at the bottom there, he's pretty much invisible. Then when he comes up, he's going to fade in. Great, well I want him to stay there. So what I'm going to do is go into the actual image itself. I'm going to save my row settings here. I'm going to go into the image. I'm going to go over to advanced. I'm going to go down to scroll effects again. I'm going to stick it to the top. Now when I roll up, it's staying exactly where it was. It's going to come up from the bottom. It's going to fade in. It's going to stay there. And then our little section below is going to pop in. We may need to adjust the Z index so that's on top. That's very easy to do. So let's do that. I'm going to save the image settings here. Now that we've got that in fixed position, we may want to go down to wireframe mode to edit. If it's in the way. Little icon on the left-hand side once you hit your little purple button, wireframe view. So we want to go into our call to action here, or in fact the whole row. So if I go into the green tab, the row, we can go back to desktop version now. We roll on down. That call to action is going behind there. I really want it to stay in front. So in the row itself that the call to action's in, if we go to advanced and position, roll down a bit, you've got a Z index. That'll pull it to the front if you give it a higher number. And there it is, it's popped up on top there. Just exactly what I wanted. Fantastic. So let's save that. We've already linked this section to that section below here. So that should scroll. Let's save our draft now, or publish if you're ready. We'll exit the Visual Builder and see what we got. One thing I want to add in a moment is just the animation for that button. It just makes it more eye-catching. So let's go down. We'll go into the button, dark tab for the button there. Under the Design tab is where you find animations. If we click on it, I want mine to maybe bounce. As you can see, it does that. I want it to keep doing it, so I'm going to change it from once to loop. But the time it takes is going to be too quick, 1 second for me. So you can slide it up. It'll only take you to 2 seconds. I'm going to make mine say 3 seconds. Just type in whatever value you want. Don't want any delay. Just want it to keep happening like that. Now, while we're in here, let's just check the link that it's going to and the content link. It's going to our sales, which should actually be not the section the fella's in there. It should be this section here that our out of this world call to action is. So let's check that. Let's go to wireframe mode. There's our call to action. There's the image. Let's make sure this section has not got an ID that's confusing anything. Great. So here's the one with the call to action. It's got the ID of sales. Great. Let's take this back to desktop. Here's our top section. There's our second section. Here's our third section. Should take it up there. It's taking it up to the right place though, is it? So let's just add a bit of padding and put this where we want it. It's about right for the top. So I want it down here somewhere. So let's go into our row, design, spacing. Let's give it a bit of padding on the top. See 20 VH, see what that does. Not going to be enough. Make it 40 or double it. That's about how I want it. Let's have a look on mobile. That's going to work fine. That was on tablet. It's going to be too far down, I think, on mobile. So let's make it 10 VH on mobile, perhaps. That'll bring it further up like that. Great. Let's go back to desktop. Save that. Save draft or publish if you're ready. And we should be good to go. There's our little title. And we've got our little pulsing button going on. If I click on that little button, takes us down to that fella and the out of this world deal sale on. If I click get the deals down, takes us down to our little deals right there. And of course you can do it manually. If we scroll in from the top, we've got our title there. We've got this little character popping in. Then we've got our call to action. And our little sale items there. And that's a really nice little interactive sale item page, or little squeeze page if you will, for your site. They can click on it, do their thing, or they can just roll up and down and have it happen that way. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you've got any questions, put them down below. I'll do my best to answer them for you, or make a little demo video like this one. Once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignertechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.